Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Time for part 3 of Professor Victor Singing Eagle's brilliant lectures here at Sisseton Wahpeton College. Are we in part 3 or part 4? Nah, doesn't matter. Anyway, without any further yickety yak, we'll get right into the lecture with your amazing, brilliant host, Professor Victor Singing Eagle! Yay! Okay, now, where did we stop? We stopped in Daniel Heath Justice's amazing book, Why Indigenous Literatures Matter. And we are on page 49. And we were moving from Ella Cara Deloria's book, which is called Water Lily, and talking about how natives, when we're learning how to be human from our fellow family members and tribe members and clan members, and who picks it up but my dear Professor Geary Hobson. He picks it up in a book called The Last of the Ofos. By the way, Ofo is probably a derogatory term for the people who call the very tiny tribe down there in the Louisiana Delta. They call themselves, it's right here, where did I put it? Mosopelea tribe down there. And the main character of the book is Thomas Darko. And it's a dramatization of the alienation that happens between non-natives and the natives living in a non-native world. To kind of highlight what he's talking about. Let me just read first and then I'll highlight what he's talking about. It's what happens between the pages that fully distinguishes the last of the Ofos from the last of the Mohicans and offers insight into the interventions of indigenous writing, into the still dominant stereotypes about indigenous humanity. Let me skip over. Now, we are looking at this Ofo man, Thomas Darko. He's an elder now because he's lived a long life and he's seen a lot of things. And he's not a farmer. We are farmers. Bum. Nope, we're not going to go there. We're going to stay focused on the book because, I got ADHD, something terrible. No, it says here that he is an older now, Ofo man. And he has lived a long time and seen a whole lot of things, and he's also served time in the U.S. military, the Marines, to be particular. Let me read on page 51. Most indigenous languages in North America are threatened. Many are critically endangered. Some exist only through the memory of their fullness in the pages of academic treatises and dust-gathering linguistic accounts. Yet are they dead or merely sleeping? Indigenous language revitalization efforts increasingly focus on the language of sleep rather than language of death. After all, these languages belong to this land and have been spoken here since time immemorial. And if our knowledge comes from the land, then as long as our relationship to the land persists, there are possibilities for reawakening what has gone dormant. So this Ofo fella, I should call him by his real tribal name, which is Mosopelea, Thomas Darko. He has gone through a lot, served time in the military. Um, there's a metaphor of clear cutting because he's a teeny tiny tribe. He started off in a big tribe, and then when the newcomers came along and they pretty much cut all the people down, that's the clear cutting metaphor. They also cut down his language and a lot of the kinship ties, and so he's sort of like feeling like one in a million. I told you about this before. As a Native American in a, we want to say, a big university, the black folks call it a PWI, predominantly white institution. I used to teach at HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. But the bigger universities, mainstream universities, I was telling this to my 070 students a lot of times. I'd be the only Indian in a big old class full of 800 people. And I am not exaggerating here, by the way. University of California at Santa Barbara, um, I think there were 150, 149 native students and 16, whatever, thousands and thousands, and everybody else, and just 150 Indians, right? So, and they never let you forget it. That's kind of what this fella is telling us. And also, this fella, Geary Hobson, is telling us in the book, The Last of the Ofos. And you feel like the Lone Ranger, and everybody asks you all kinds of ignorant, stupid questions about Indians. And they expect you, as a native, as they did with Mr. Thomas Darko, to stand and be a representative for 5,719 tribes, stretching all the way from Canada and Alaska down to the tip of Tierra del Fuego. And in the U.S. alone, we got 550 tribes and maybe 2 million natives here, and not of them all are full bloods. And they expect you, as the lone Indian or one of the few Indians, to speak for all the Indians, right? That's kind of what is going on. And he's also speaking of alienation. Says here, however, when he joined the Marines for the first time in his life, he felt like he was being treated as an equal. Ooh, imagine that. Now, I'm starting to go off too much. By the way, I did mention last time, or the time before last, that of all the different ethnicities, at least here in the U.S., probably in Canada too, we natives have the highest enlistment rate into the U.S. military, or even the Canadian military. We have the highest rate of service. Imagine that. So don't ever let anybody accuse you of being unpatriotic, because we Indians bleed red, white, and blue. Because this is our land. Where else are we going to go, right? Or in Canada, it would be just red and white and maple syrup. Ha! No! Now I got to focus. I got to change the channel. We're going to go to Read, Listen, and Tell. We don't have much time, and I always talk way too much, so we're going to jump right into this. This book, Read, Listen, and Tell, just showed up in my inbox the other day, and I'm just going to crack it open and highlight some important things. What do I want to tell you about this book? Read, Listen, and Tell. I want you to read pages 1 through 11, keeping in mind that this book is primarily thematically organized. It is an anthology, you see, of several writers, both from Canada and the U.S. You guys know I'm a mixed breed. And it works well because, native North America. Now, I'm looking at the lesson plan, item 5 here, where it says read, listen, tell, walk through. The stories are organized thematically and then later chronologically. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's just look at it. It says here stories as identity, stories about homeland, reinventing the enemy's language. I like that one. Imagine reinventing the enemy's language. What does that even mean? Who knows? That might show up on a quiz someday. Item 5D, knowledge embedded. And I got to pull this out, flip it over. It says here story arcs and cycles. That's oftentimes when we natives tell stories, we go in a big circle. Stories of transformation, shifting perspectives, and one of mine that is near and dear to my heart, fantasy and science fiction. Natives in fantasy and science fiction, that is. Getting into some interesting new breakthrough material there. Now, last but not least, as I get ready to close this off and knock off and get out of here because I'm already hogging up this room too long, I want you to have a look at this interview and reading with Tiffany Midge. You can click on that. It'll open up a new window, and you can also click on that and hear Tiffany Midge speak. She is, I believe, Hunk Papa Lakota. And We actually met here in South Dakota several years ago, 25 years ago to be exact. We still keep in touch. Things are going pretty well. She's, I don't know, I talk too much. Just watch the video and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. You guys have a nice day. Talk to you later. Bye bye. 10 minutes and 22 seconds.